Hi, so today's video is actually going to be explaining to you guys how to really keep up with the safety, the laws and the regulations of a freight brokerage company, or basically anything that has to do in the brokerage side of the transportation industry. I want to go ahead and give you guys some detailed information on behalf of us, and pretty much just give you guys the benefit of the doubt of the things that you need to stay compliant with the Department of Transportation and be able to not have any issues with the Department of Transportation. So you want to be able to know the process and know what exactly you need under your company so you can be compliant with the Department of Transportation. So I'm going to go ahead and basically just give you guys a little breakdown on behalf of basically how everything is patterned out to the point where you are able to be authorized to brokerage, right? So to run your company. So one of the first things I want to go ahead and speak about with you here is basically the broker registration. So we need to understand that new applicants who are basically opening up their business, they need to understand what exactly you need as far as to stay compliant, right, with the Department of Transportation, with the FMCSA. So basically, so brokers who are registering for the first time must apply for a broker authority, which is pretty much getting your MC number and your USDOT number. You have to comply with that. You need to be able to get your authority. You must have, as you can see here, for brokers or of property, you have to have the proof of insurance coverage, a surety bond, the BMC 84. Basically, you need to have that $75,000 bond, as I always explain, as you can see here under you. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay $75,000 out of your pocket to open up this business. You have to comply with having proof of the insurance that you have a BMC 84 filed under your company, so that way you can go ahead and be granted that authority to start and run your own business, which is called the surety bond. The other thing that you need to understand is you need to have your BO secret form. So that's here. And it's pretty much just designating, as it says here, of process agents from brokers made. It says designate themselves as their own process agents in the state in which they are writing contracts. Uh, Basically, it's pretty much just having a process agent in every different state. And I'll go ahead and give you guys an example of basically how that's broken down. You obviously have to pay. You need the application fee, as you can see here. It's that at this current moment. So you just need to comply with basically the laws, the safety rules, the regulations of opening up a freight brokerage company. You need to understand that you need to do these steps to be able to basically stay complied with the FMCSA, to be able to open up your business and to have an authority, right, which is your MC and your USDOT number as well. So we're going to go ahead and move into the insurance requirements, as I was explaining to you guys. And there's different ones here. As I was explaining to you guys, here we have the BMC 34 or the BMC 83, which is like the cargo insurance, household goods, motor carriers, household goods, freight forwarder. So there's different kinds of insurances. There's the BMC 84, which is the surety bond. It's $75,000 trust, $75,000. That's for the freight forwarders and the brokers of freight. We have the BO secret reform, as I explained, is the service process agents. This here is the MCS 90. That's for hazmat safety permits. That's if you will be brokering what hazmat is. And for those of you who don't know anything about hazmat, hazmat's pretty much like fuel, oil, all those things that are hazards. As far as that. You you basically need to have these things. So whichever insurance requirements fits into your brokerage company, you need to have them. For example, under your company registration, under your company, because if you don't, then you won't get granted what is called the authority. Your authority will be your MC number and your USDOT number. You need to understand that if you're not compliant and you don't have all these forms and all these things filled out under you, you basically won't be compliant with FMCSA, and that means that your business will be cut off. It will be shut down. You won't be compliant, so no one wants to work with you because they'll see that you are basically not compliant with the MCSA, and that you are basically are not following the rules. So you need to be compliant. You need to understand that these things must be done before and within you running your business to stay compliant, so that way you don't run into any further issues in the near future. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you the BOC degree, right? So as I explained, this is just pretty much a designation of agents for service of process. Now, this actually here, realistically, isn't anything too complicated that to establish. It's pretty much just a form filled out and signed, basically. And I'm going to show you guys a little uh, an example here shortly of what exactly it is. And it isn't actually something that needs to necessarily, it's not going to be expensive. You know, it's not going to be anything that's going to break the bank. It really just depends on your end, on who you go with to fill out, to get this BOC3 form filled under your business. It depends on the price that you're going to pay. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of just give you guys an example. As you can see here, it asks for US DOT number, date received, basic information, right? Full correct name of carrier, broker, freight forwarder, address, carrier, broker, freight forwarder, title of authorized person, and then you're gonna have to see here how it says all these different states. So it has basically all our states, right? All these different states on here. Name of agent, street address, city. This is all this form is. It's basically just having, like I said, a designated agent of process for your business. Nothing too complicated, nothing that's gonna break the bank, but it's definitely something that you need to comply with to be able to have your authority granted to you and to be able to receive your MC number and your US DOT number. So we need to understand that we must be compliant. We must follow the guidelines of the FMCSA to be able to run our business, to have a clean record under our business as well. Next thing I want to go ahead and touch base on here will be basically on some of the laws, basically things that we should know. As the 49 CFR. You want to be able to, on your own time, just kind of look over this, and just kind of basically go over whatever fits your necessity of your business, and just kind of know exactly what the rules are. It's very important that we know the rules, that we understand how to be compliant with with the FMCSA, because it's very important to know these laws. It's very important to understand what we can do and what we can't do, because you want to go ahead and avoid those headaches in the near future. You want to be able to not run into things that are gonna just make your business slow down, things that are gonna basically put you over the edge, or can even shut down your business if you're not complying with what the FMCSA wants you to comply with. So it's very important that you take a look at all these rules that fit your business method, and be able to kind of understand what they are, basically what you can do, what you can't do, what to expect, what not to expect. You need to understand that we need to be as knowledgeable as we can and have all the information needed on our behalf as business owners, so we can avoid running into those headaches. It is very important that we understand. The next thing I want to go ahead and speak to you about a little bit here is applying for a EIN. Now, applying for an EIN is very important. You need to apply for this, and it's very simple. You could do it online. It's basically something very fast, very something that you could basically do in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. And it'll kind of show you here. So step one, determine your eligibility, right? You may apply for an EIN online if your principal business is located in the United States or U.S. territories. Step two, understand the online applications. You must complete this application in one session, as you will not be able to save and return at a later time. Your session will expire after 15 minutes of inactivity, and you will need to start over. Submit your application is the step three. After all, validations are done, you will get your EIN immediately upon completion. You can then download, save, and print your EIN confirmation notice. Now, this is basically having to do with, with for your business. So this is getting your, your employer identification numbers as far as your business. And this is something that has to be done. This is something that basically you want to go ahead and look into and do because it's important. Like I said, you want to comply with everything that has to do with the business side and, with the legal stuff and regulations of the business side. So you want to be able to make sure and understand that you are doing everything as needed to be, because you will then avoid running into these headaches, avoid running into these things that you necessarily don't want to run into. You're going to avoid all these things that can cost you to lose money or to spend. As I always said, there's investment and then there's spending. You need to understand that you need to do a lot less spending and a lot more investing. So you need to understand that you don't want to spend money. You don't want to spend unnecessary money for things that could have been avoided if you're doing things as you're compliant. So you want to be as compliant as possible, with anything that has to do with your business, because if you're not, then no one will. So you need to understand. This is why it's very important for you guys to understand what is the process, what is the pattern, what exactly you have to do to be compliant with the FMCSA and be able to basically run your business at ease and know exactly what you're doing. Because as I always said, you need to understand that it's not just about opening up a business and running the business. You need to understand all the things around it as far as safety, the laws, the regulations, everything that keeps you compliant to be able to run this business. Because if you're not compliant and if you're not doing as you need to do as a business owner, what happens is you run into those headaches, your business will get shut down, and all the money that you've invested becomes spent. And we don't want to spend. We want to invest. We want to make sure that we get our investments back and that we make money from what we've invested into this business. So you need to understand that you need to stay compliant. You need to be able to understand that everything has to go in a certain pattern, and there are steps to it to basically stay compliant with the FMCSA and with everything that has to do with the safeties and laws and regulations in the Department of Transportation. Now, the last thing I want to go ahead and speak about is basically to stay compliant, right? As a business, you need to understand that you need to work with, with the right individuals. You need to work with the right carriers. You want to make sure that these carriers that are going to haul freight for you are carriers that are authorized, carriers that have no type of claims on them, that they're able to pick up freight. You want to be able to stay compliant with that. It is very important for you to understand that you need to always check these MC numbers for these carriers and get some background knowledge on them, because you don't want to be that that freight brokerage business owner who runs into the problem of basically using a carrier that's not authorized, and then something happens in behalf of that situation and that carrier. Something happens with the carrier, they don't turn in the load, or something happens with the load. There's an issue of any sort, and then this carrier is not even authorized to be hauling freight. They're maybe they have claims, maybe they've closed it down, and you just didn't do your research on it properly. So it's very important that we understand that we only want to work with carriers and that have valid authorities. So it's just a business method. It's a way of knowing who you're doing business with, and you need to understand that it's just staying compliant. You want to stay compliant with everything, with the laws and the rules. We cannot work with what are called carriers that don't have a valid authority. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you a simple step. This here is basically a safer web company snapshot. It's very easy, as you can see here. This here is the URL, right, to get onto it. You can check either by the US DOT number, you can check by the MC number, you can even check by the name of the carrier. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of explain to you guys as far as checking it with the MC. It's the most common thing everyone does. You put the MC number in there. This is just a random MC, and I'm going to go ahead and click search. Now, it's going to go ahead and populate the company. You want to make sure that this company is basically, authorized to basically haul. We'll see here. Okay, give me 1 second. Not sure why that's not working. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on here. We're going to click on the MC. We're going to do, let's do this one. Let's see what this populates. Okay, so that's not one. And like I said, we're just doing here a random one. So not as you can see here, this one here is basically they're a carrier, they're authorized for property, out of service date, they don't have any. It shows you here the name of the company. It shows you here basically where they're located, their phone number, their USDOT number, their MC number. They have one power unit, they have one driver, they're authorized to haul general freight. They're interstates as well. It gives you a little bit, background information on their behalf. Now, it's very important here, as it says here, authorized for property. It says operating status, and basically you want to make sure that this here always says authorized. If it says not authorized, this means they are not authorized to move any type of freight. So that means you do not want to do business with them. This is why it's very important for you guys to understand how exactly you need to do these checks on these carriers. You want to make sure here where it says out of service date, it says none, because you don't want to use anyone who's out of service. You need to understand that you want to do your background. You want to make sure that you're able to kind of see if these carriers are good. As you can see here, we'll go under as far as the inspections. It shows you all their inspections. It shows you crashes listed. In the past 24 months prior to 11/15/2018. It shows you this incident. It shows you basically. It just gives you a little bit of background knowledge as far as what this company does, who this company is, if their drivers are doing things properly, they don't have 20 accidents, 5, 6, 7 accidents, whatever it is. It just gives you that benefit of the doubt to be able to look into the little bit, the background of this carrier to make sure that you're able to do business with this carrier, and just gives you that benefit of the doubt to be able to work at ease and know that this carrier is legit. They are authorized. They are being compliant with, the FMCSA as you are as well as a business owner. So this is a green light here. As I said, you always want to make sure this is authorized for whatever you're doing. If it's property, if it's vehicle hauling, etc. You want to just make sure that it's authorized. Here you want to make sure it never says that it's out of service or there's a date on there, because that means they are basically not being compliant. So it's very important that we understand that basically we always want to go ahead and check who we're doing business with. We always want to go ahead and just have that benefit of the doubt to see who exactly who's gonna take our freight for us, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure as freight brokerage company business owners or freight broker agents, we need to understand and make sure that these companies that we are giving business to and that they are hauling this freight on our behalf, are people who we can have, that benefit of the doubt to make sure that they are authorized to be able to do this, because you want to avoid any type of headaches, and it's very important that we understand that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit basically about everything that we spoke about here. Just we basically explain how to stay compliant, right, with the FMCSA. It's very important that we understand pretty much the procedures of, being compliant. You got to have your surety bond, you got to have your BMC 3 form, or whatever insurance it's needed for the brokerage that you're doing. You need to have these under your company, because if you don't, then you won't be compliant. Your business won't be able to operate. You won't have your authority. So that means you're not complying with the laws, the rules, the safety regulations of this business side, the law side of this business. So that means that you will not be able to work and have a business. So we need to understand that we need to be compliant with that. I've explained to you basically how to get your EIN. It's important for you to get your EIN. That's the way you're going to go ahead and do basically, as far as your taxes and all that stuff for your employers and yourself at the end of the business cycle for the end of the year. So you want to go ahead and get your EIN. It's just being compliant with the laws, and having to be complied with those procedures that of having a business. So we need to understand that we need to do these procedures to be able to be compliant with our business, so our businesses can keep on growing, keep on going, and we don't have to worry about our businesses being closed down or being interrupted during our business times. The next thing we spoke about was how to do business with carriers that have valid authorization, which is basically here on the Safer Web. You want to make sure that you are doing business with carriers that have their authority, that are authorized to move property, that are authorized to move vehicles, etc. Whatever you're brokering, you need to make sure that you check their status, their operating status. It is very important, very crucial that you do this, because the last thing you want to do is, like I said, is run into those headaches, into the near future, that, something that could have been avoided. You could have just gone onto the Safer Web to check if there were, their operating status. Something comes up, and then you lose a shipper, you lose business, you lose time, you lose money. Remember, like I said, there's a certain thing called investment, there's a certain thing called spending. You don't want to spend money, you want to invest money. You want to avoid spending money, you want to avoid problems, and you always want to make sure to stay compliant with everything that has to do with the laws, the rules, and pretty much the safety of your business, and being able to go in that pattern way to be able to run a healthy business. So I want to go ahead and thank you guys for staying tuned to this video and being able to just kind of get some very small detailed information about being compliant with the FMCSA, with the safety rules, and pretty much just knowing what exactly you have to do to kind of stay up and running as a business. These are very small detailed things. A short video just explained to you that little things like this are actually very important, and it's something that you as a business owner, you want to make sure that you completely understand and that you're completely following the guidelines of it, so that way you can avoid those headaches in the near future. So thank you once again for watching this video, and until next time, thank you.